Amanda Robbins.
Woohoo! Wait, why am I on top and now you're on the bottom?
I don't know.
How'd you do that? Okay, cool.
Today, we are talking about maximizing your productivity, the power of delegation. We actually did a training on this a couple weeks ago in our Core 4 Challenge group, and we teach it in Performance Coach University. The concept of how to powerfully delegate. Most people mess this up. And a little hype about next week. We're actually we're in wealth, and my belief is wealth has to do with financial freedom, time freedom, and having deep meaning and purpose. Little snapshot on this real quick. I've met a lot of people who, if you talk about them being truly wealthy, a lot of times they'll relate that to how much money they have. And that's a piece of it. You need the money to be able to do the things you want to do. I'll put it this way. If you have all the time in the world, but you can't afford to do the things you want to do, I don't think that's really wealthy. At the same time, if you have all the money, but you don't have any time, I've met people like that too, where they work and work and work and work and work. They have tons of money, but they have zero time to actually go enjoy themselves and do anything that would make them or allow them to feel the abundance in their life, to feel the wealth in their life. So financial freedom, time freedom. And then here's the wild part. I've met people who have both. They've worked their faces off. They have a ton of money. They have a lot of free time. They're doing what they want to do. But there's this, and it's kind of the worst position to be in, there's this kind of hole or emptiness in them where they don't know what they're really here for. What is the purpose of all this? What am I doing? Is what I'm doing every day even matter? Now, a lot of people will be like, well, that's a real quality problem. I mean, you got a lot of money and a lot of free time and you're out doing whatever you feel like doing. But the truth is, if you don't feel connected to a purpose that's bigger than just yourselves, eventually it starts to feel really empty. And so when we talk about wealth in the Core 4 Challenge, what we're really focusing on is those three pieces. How do we find the time freedom? And we create that through leverage, through delegation, through setting up people, processes, dashboards, and systems, and the right things in our life that give us the time freedom. Second piece is how do we get the right financial freedom? So we talk about how do you create your money mindset? A lot of people have emotional challenges in the concept of money where they'll make a bunch of money and then make it all disappear. And then they'll save a bunch of money and then have an excuse to make it disappear. And I always call them money magicians because no matter how much they make, they tend to go poof and it's gone. And so the concept of how do we get your mindset around money right? The second piece is how do we get your habits so that you're habitually moving in the right direction? From there, if we get the right mindset and the right habits, then we need a money machine. A money machine is, someone told me this a few years ago, the concept of it takes 10 years to build anything great. Well, if you take option 1, 10 years, you get your salary every year, and at the end, it's worth 0. Option 2, 10 years, you get your salary every year, and at the end, it's worth $10 million. Or option 3, you get your salary every year, and at the end, it's worth $100 million. Well, which one are you going to choose? Well, I'll pause right there because most human beings don't consider the work they do as adding up to anything beyond the salary or earnings they get. And so we have to step back and say, hey, have you chosen the right money machine? Have you chosen the right vehicle that if you're spending 10 years to build that career in or 10 years to build it in, that at the end, it's worth something? Now, most entrepreneurs make more money in the exit of their business than they ever do in their business and all the earnings they make every single year. So have you built something of enterprise value so that at the end, it's worth something? You can exit it, get that windfall, get that lump sum of earning. And then here's the million, billion, gazillion dollar question is, what do you do with it? Mm-hmm. You have all this money. You paid your taxes. You got this big old lump of money. One of our mentors says at that moment in your life, you'll get a bunch of helpers who show up who've never made this amount of money in their life, who will have 1,000,001 great ideas of what to do with it, often in which it'll make it disappear like that. And so what's really fascinating is once you've earned it, once you've spent the years in the vehicle, you've exited it, you have this lump sum of earnings, what do you do with it? And so the fun part, there's just a little plug here for my dad. He has a new book coming out. I've read it 1.5 times so far. It's so dang good. It's called The Holy Grail of Investing. He went and interviewed probably 12 of the best, most iconic investors on earth. and ask that question. What do you do with it? And these guys show you exactly what they do. What's wild is one of the hardest parts is they'll tell you what they do. I was just talking to a friend about it earlier today on Instagram. I was saying it's so unfair because they tell you what to do, and then you think, well, great. How do I get access? How do I actually do it? And what's wild is the allocation for these types of investments are saved for the millions and billions that are in pension funds and sovereign wealth groups and all this stuff. And the really, really neat part that I'm unbelievably excited about is something he's been working really hard with a partner that he shares about in the book, who've actually found a way to democratize this and make it available to everyday people so that we have a shot too of actually co-investing with the best on earth. So anyways, grab a copy of that book. It's worth doing. And that was one of my dreams when I created the Core 4 Challenge, which was, if we can help people master this topic, time freedom, financial freedom, deep purpose and meaning in all that they're doing, we can help them master that topic of wealth. So they have the time and they get to decide what is worth investing their life into, that purpose and that gives them purpose and meaning every day. And financially, we've helped them get their mindset right, get their habits right, pick the right vehicle to ensure there's large earning potential, both along the way and the big lump sum at the end, if they do it right, of enterprise value. And then I always dreamed of being like, well, shoot, then we have to help them figure out what to do with it once they have it. So they follow rule number 1, which is never lose money. And rule number 2, how do you intelligently co-invest with the best on earth? And what's really neat is I had no clue how that was going to come together a year ago when I wrote that dream down. But then my dad kind of popped out of nowhere with this amazing book he had been working on, and he shows us exactly how to do it. So it's very, very cool. Anyways, today we're talking about maximizing your productivity with delegation. If you want to create more time, there's what we talked about in our training this week for the Core 4 Challenge, which was how to make sure you're really focused on the things that matter. But we gave a few tips. Single focused. Yesterday on our live, we talked about the difference of when people multitask versus single focused. My friend did some research and found out when people multitask, out of every 60 minutes worked, they actually only get 20 minutes of productivity. That means there's 40 minutes lost by trying to do 2 things at once. If all you do is focus on one thing at a time, you'll actually get 2 times more productivity. So that means you'll get 40 minutes of actual productivity out of every 60 minutes work. Now, most people roll their eyes and go, well, why can't I get 60 minutes of productivity if 60 minutes worked? There is a way to do that. We call that a power hour. And there's a very specific way you set it up to actually get maximum productivity out of a full hour. Anyways, I'll pass it to you, Robbins. You want to give me some tips on a power hour?
I love power hour. No, why do you do that? Why?
Because it's your time to shine.
No.
You need a spotlight.
Can I do that to you when, hold on, I'm going to practice that with you. So I love the power hour concept so much. When I was leading a team, goodness, it feels like ages ago, we actually created that concept. I hadn't heard of it from anywhere, but we just realized, and this was before people were really into all this social media. What we did as I was leading this team was we realized there was so much distraction, and we really needed, whether it was email or people coming into the office or coming to your desk or something, and we really needed to focus on moving the needle. And so what we did was we introduced this concept of power hour, and it was shutting down all notifications, all emails, closing the door. We had signs up either on the back of everyone's desk or on the office door, and it said power hour. I'll see you in however many minutes, like with a little time of when we'd be available again. And we saw productivity go up tremendously, but not just productivity and results of actually hitting our targets and goals for that day or that week. We saw our whole team, every single person on the team, just so much happier. And the happiness came from the progress being made by that clarity of what they're doing and what they're focused on without distraction or interruption. So That's one way to use the power hour concept. You just shut down every single notification, your emails, block out your calendar, put a sign up so everyone knows, and it becomes the way in which you do your work and your best work, your deepest work, and get the greatest results. So it becomes a team culture, a way of being for everyone. So everyone respects it and minds it and understands the importance and values it and cheers it on. Sometimes, we would even do like 2-hour sets, and we just do 1 hour, take a 15-minute break and come back. Right. So that's another way to do it too. Okay. Can you come back? How do you do that?
Absolutely. The other part about the power hour is how you prepare for it. So something, I forget who told me this. It was Grant Cardone, Brian Tracy, one of these guys. Maybe it was my dad. It was one of these people where you need to boost your self-confidence before you do it. And I was like, boost your self-confidence before you work for an hour. What does that make any difference? And it's like, well, you got to think about it. You got to think. Someone told me the other day, it was something I was reading where it says, the longest and most impactful conversation you're ever going to have in your head, or you're ever going to have, is the one consistently in your head. Make sure it's a great place to be. And it's this concept of we're always talking to ourselves. And so if you're going into an hour of work and you're thinking, oh God, this again, I'm going to have to do all this stuff I don't feel like doing. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to feel very motivated, excited, passionate, determined, or focused to get stuff done. I'm going to kind of be dragging just entering it. On the reverse, what if you're also saying like, gosh, I hope they don't interrupt me again. Gosh, I hope I actually get something done this time. Gosh, I hope this actually works. Like if you have this trash in your head that's slowing you down, you're not even starting off on the right foot. And so as simple as it could be is sit down. You can have a mantra, an affirmation. You can do some transcendental meditation. You can do some breath work. If you were trying to activate creativity, one of my friends, Dr. Huberman, told me if you get to a window and it has an open space, if you put your eyes out on the horizon and defocus them for 5 minutes while doing some calm breathing, it'll stimulate creativity in your brain if you're going to do marketing or anything in the arts. I love my wife.
I don't know how you do.
Stop. And so the concept of if you're going to get into your best self, what you might do is something really simple. This was something taught to me a long time ago. They call it the circle of excellence. All you might do is look over on the ground beside you, draw a circle mentally on the ground. And in that circle, you might add in some of the qualities you would like to have during this next hour. I'd like to be focused. I'd like to be inspired. I'd like to be determined. I'd like to be passionate. I'd like to be energized. I would like to be happy and joyful and abundant and alive and whatever else you'd want to feel. You put all those qualities into that circle. And then what you do is you step into the circle. Imagine, I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember the Jetsons. The Jetsons, when they stepped into the pod and the little thing went over them and it created that little pod around them and then they like flew off in it. Same thing. So imagine stepping into the circle, boom, and it goes, and a little pod goes around you. And imagine all of those qualities turning your favorite color. Imagine all of those qualities turning into kind of like a mist that you can breathe in and soak into your being. And so if all you do is draw that circle on the ground, pour in all the qualities, step into it, imagine you're now in the bubble of it, breathe it in, experience those qualities, and allow it to become part of you. And all of a sudden, from that, let's say 90 seconds of doing this circle of excellence exercise and then starting your power hour, you will be an entirely different human being. It's a way to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally for that power hour. Another thing you can do is something my dad teaches called priming. In yoga, it's called pranayama breathing or breath of fire. You can use that, or resonance breathing is another way to do it, where you actually energize your mind, body, and emotions through breath work and then step into it. I had a client who said he could not last a day without 2, 3, 4 cups of coffee. And I said, have you ever tried breath work? And he was like, yeah, no breath work's going to give me what my shot of espresso does. And I was like, beg to differ. And I said, watch this. Cut the coffee. Every time you feel your energy draining, I want you to use this very specific type of breathing. And they would do it. And what happened, he came back the next day and he was like, dude, I've had more energy than my coffee ever gave me. This is insane. Why didn't you tell me about this before? Anyways, we'll tell you about that next week. We got to get going.
I want to add one more thing. Week. I love your circle of excellence. Stop. Oh my goodness. Okay. I love the circle of excellence. Thank you so much. I would like to add to that too, that so once you've built the confidence, you've scheduled in your power hour, the next thing is to get crystal clear on the one thing you're going to walk away with when you finish that session, right? Like what's the real goal of it? And put a specific number or target that you're going after. Where people fail is they try to do too many things that hour versus that one thing that's really going to make it work. And sometimes you finish that within an hour and you can move on to the next. But what's the one thing that you're really going to walk away from with it once you're finished? Set that as your goal and your target. All right. That's all.
Final question. Laura said, how often do we do these lives? We do them daily, 5 days a week. Make sure to tune in and share them if you know someone who might benefit from them. Okay. See y'all later. Have a great morning, evening, afternoon.
And weekend.